I think both of us knew that we wanted a marriage that looked decidedly different from what we had seen growing up.
When I was young, my mom was the very first person in our family to become a Christian. And unfortunately, my father did not become a Christian until I was in high school. So my mom was the one that was taking us to church and was the example and really the leader in the family. So although I was growing as a Christian, I really didn't have a real role model of what a Christian family should look like.
Even though while I was growing up, both my parents were Christians and we did go to church, they were not able to build a marriage that lasted, and there was a lot of bitterness and anger on my mom's part, and I just felt like I never had a really good picture of how to build a loving relationship, which you respected each other and trusted each other. And so going into marriage, I was a little fearful that I wouldn't be able to respond as I knew I wanted to, because I didn't have that role model, that solid foundation.
As I entered into our actual marriage, I had already been proactively meeting with men and desiring to build a skill set so that I could come in as the spiritual leader and a great husband. And then it was my desire once we got married just to continue to build upon that, but evolve some of those relationships so that now we were meeting with couples rather than just necessarily meeting with individuals.
In college, I was so thankful to have women invest in me in spiritual matters and encourage me. And so when we got married, I welcomed people coming into our lives to encourage us.
I think one of the benefits of meeting, like with the family that we meet with for on occasion for accountability, being able just to have a discussion, the four of us around the table about life issues, really allows us to hear a different perspective. It allows us to kind of verbalize, which things that maybe we don't necessarily say to each other in the conversation one-on-one, but at the table there's such trust, and there's it's such a healthy relationship, that a place of safety that we're able to communicate back and forth.
For me personally, being vulnerable with others sometimes reveals what's going on in my heart. As I'm talking with them, I realize that I'm kind of thinking through what's really going on. And so I hear myself say something, and then I think, yeah, that's really what God's doing at this moment.
To think about marriage in isolation is a difficult concept for me to even perceive. I think it would be so challenging just to work through the issues independent of the community of believers surrounding you to help you through navigating the rough seasons, to navigate the difficult questions, to have someone pray for you, to hold you accountable. I think there's an excuse that can happen when you do it in isolation. You just look inwardly and you're not focused on the impact that's having on others and those around you or your family or your children. And so I think isolation is not healthy, and that, we need to be actively pursuing how the community, how the church can be engaged in helping to encourage you through your marriage.
I think that you can't survive as a Christian if you are walking by yourself, and I know you can't survive as a married couple without others speaking into your life, without others being around you.
It saddens me that the divorce rate in the church is as high as it is outside of the church. And we know that marriage is difficult and challenging. Mm-hmm. Yet we've got this great network within our church. We've got to desire to engage with one another. We've got to desire to pursue one another so that there's an openness to share and invest in one another. And I just know that in our own relationship, the value that brought, not only us pursuing, but people who were willing to invest in us. And I believe that, even at Eagle Church, we can have a culture where people are pursuing one another, and a culture where people are investing in one another.